Greetings, everyone. I hope you're fine. I hope you are doing well. I'm back again with another video. In this video, I just want to talk about the two prominent or significant leaders or famous leaders or popular in South African politics, because I believe that in future it would be impossible to talk about South African politics without mentioning these two leaders, which is Jacob Zuma and Julius Malema. Why I want to talk about these two leaders is because right now, as we speak, there's a trend that is saying it's over with EFF. EFF is dead, and so forth and so forth. Then at the same time, with many people who are like, when it comes to MK Party, everything is fine. MK Party is doing well. MK Party is on top of the world. So that is why it is important for us to understand the power of these two leaders, which is Jacob Zuma and Julius Malema. Why? Because many people who voted for MK Party are attached to Jacob Zuma. And many people who are going to MK right now should understand that many people who voted for MK Party are attached to who? To Jacob Zuma. Same applies to economic freedom fighters. Many people who voted for EFF are attached to Julius Malema. This is a fact. And I would like to take this moment to talk about Jacob Zuma for a moment. Many people know that Jacob Zuma is a freedom fighter who spent some time in prison fighting for freedom and etc. and etc. But I want to talk about the rise of Jacob Zuma as someone who becomes popular, as someone who becomes important or significant when it comes to South African politics. Because after 1994, we don't see much about Jacob Zuma, because the most important leaders or popular leaders at the time were the likes of Thabo Mbeki, Nelson Mandela, and many others. So it's just that at that time, Jacob Zuma was not in a forefront. But what made Jacob Zuma to have the image that he has right now? Because we have to understand that it's not easy to build an image. It's not something that you can do overnight. It's impossible. It takes time to build an image. Where am I going with this? It's because I want us to understand the power of MK Party, the position of MK Party, or the strength of MK Party. So right now, as we speak, the strength of MK Party is still upon Jacob Zuma. Other people may agree, other people may disagree, and it's still fine. But how did Jacob Zuma build his popularity or build his image? We have to understand that when he became a deputy president, that's when things started. He started attending cases, because we grew up seeing Jacob Zuma on television all the time. Because when you would switch on television, then you would see Jacob Zuma. People are talking about Jacob Zuma. Jacob Zuma is in court. Jacob Zuma this, Jacob Zuma that. You listen to radio in the morning, in the afternoon. Jacob Zuma is there. That is why I'm like, the rise of Jacob Zuma is like the rise of King David in the ancient writings, because they wanted to sideline him. His brothers wanted to sideline him. But at the end of the day, he ended up being a king. Just imagine, because sometimes when people suppress you, it's like that's when you get a favor. Same applies to Jacob Zuma, because many people in South Africa started sympathizing with Jacob Zuma. Why? Because many people were like, why this man is being rejected? Why is like this man is being sidelined? Because many people were like, there's something wrong here. It's like they don't want this man to become the president of South Africa. So based on sympathy, so many people started attaching themselves upon Jacob Zuma because they were trying to suppress him. They were trying maybe to silence him. They were trying maybe to stop him. But at the end of the day, they were actually uplifting him using media, using everything. That's when many people started like attaching themselves to Jacob Zuma. So it's not easy to destroy that image. It's not easy to destroy the image that you build for a long period of time. That is why in 2009, he became the president of South Africa. Why? Because many people had sympathized with him. Many people had decided to follow him because naturally we are like that. We want to sympathize with the vulnerable, those who are poor, those who are suffering. Then fast forward, during looting, there was a time when they decided to imprison him or to take him to prison. And even people at that time who had disagreed with him while he was still the president of South Africa, they started sympathizing with him again. Then his popularity came back and his popularity became even more. In other words, it's not easy to destroy this image. Why am I saying this? It's because you should not like be happy to say, now I'm the member of Umkhonto weSizwe, and in your mind, you have this mindset of fighting for leadership. You want to replace Jacob Zuma. You have to understand that if you are going to replace Jacob Zuma unfairly, then it means that will be the beginning of the fall of Umkhonto weSizwe. This is something that we need to understand. As I've said, that there are two leaders in South African politics after 1994 who humbled ANC, which is Jacob Zuma and Julius Malema. You don't chase them out. You don't chase them out just like that. But I'm not saying we should not hold these leaders accountable. But what I'm trying to say is that you should not become a member of Umkhonto weSizwe. You should not be quick to say, I want to join Umkhonto weSizwe because you think you'll become the president of South Africa. In other words, if you want to become the president of South Africa, you must get a blessing from Jacob Zuma. If you want to lead MK Party and if you want to keep MK Party as a giant political party with many followers, you have to make sure that you get a blessing from Jacob Zuma. Why? Because he built his image for a long period of time. So it's not easy to destroy that image. Yes, some people might say no one is above the political party, but we have to understand that there are those special leaders. I'm not saying they should not be held accountable, but there are those special leaders who are like a foundation, who are like the engine of a political party. So many people voted Umkhonto weSizwe because of Jacob Zuma. Some people might have voted Umkhonto weSizwe because of a vision, because of idea, and etc. That's good. That's what we want. But many people voted for MK Party because of Jacob Zuma. It's a fact. And again, I would like to take this opportunity to talk about Julius Malema. Julius Malema might be different from Jacob Zuma because Jacob Zuma is a man of charisma. Jacob Zuma is, in other words, his style of leadership is just a bit different from the style of Julius Malema. But again, we have to understand that you cannot build an image in 2 days or 3 days or 5 days. It takes time. Same applies to Julius Malema. He may not be a charismatic leader, but his radicalism, his truthfulness, his faithfulness made people to relate with him. Why? Because the very same language he speaks is the very same language that built his image. The language of truthfulness, the language of radicalism, the language of empathizing with those who are poor. So this is what he did, because he started speaking for those who are poor. In other words, he started talking about the nationalization. He started talking about the expropriation of land without compensation while he was still a member of African National Congress. In other words, he was serious.
We will never polish the issue of land. There is no way, even if you try, comrades, leaders, there is no way you can be diplomatic about the issue of land. The leadership of the ANC must implement the Polokwane resolution. Polokwane said, willing buyer, willing seller has failed. We must find an alternative. You have not come with an alternative. We are giving you an alternative. We must take the land without payment. If you've got an alternative, we are prepared to listen. Nationalization of mines is a resolution of this Congress. So perhaps we'll hear very minimal of Malema's policy on nationalization. Because now it's not Malema. 5,000 plus coming from many branches all over South Africa.
So the reason people would relate with you whenever you tell the truth is because there are few people in this world who speaks the truth. There are few people who can stand for what they believe in, or who can stand for what is right. So Julius Malema is that kind of a leader. That is why people can relate with him. Even people who from various political parties, they still like Julius Malema. They still love Julius Malema. Why? Because they can relate with his language, because this is a kind of a leader that can sympathize with you, that can empathize with you. This is the type of a leader that can even defend you when it's appropriate for him to do so. This is Julius Malema. He became the leader of the Youth League of ANC. Then the Youth League became alive, became popular than ever. Then his departure made the ANC Youth League to fall. Not just the ANC Youth League, but the ANC in general. So that is why I always say two leaders after 1994 who humbled ANC, Jacob Zuma and Julius Malema. Then Julius Malema formed Economic Freedom Fighters. So when he formed Economic Freedom Fighters with other people, he didn't change the language. He didn't change the language. But why people voted for Economic Freedom Fighters is because they wanted to see who is in front. They saw Julius Malema. They saw Julius Malema and they were like, this is the man who speaks our language. And many people left ANC to follow EFF. Because of who? Because of Julius Malema. Yes, we have many people who might be intelligent more than Julius Malema, more knowledgeable than Julius Malema. But the fact is, Julius Malema is like a magnet. If you want to see EFF falling, then you have to dismiss Julius Malema. You have to kick Julius Malema out of EFF unfairly. In other words, this is something which is important because is the African style of doing things. In other words, if you are going to replace someone, you must get a blessing from that person, because that person has something that you don't have. So Julius Malema has something which other leaders of EFF don't have. So in order for them to keep popularity, in order for them to keep the followers of EFF, the voters of EFF, they must get a blessing from the leader, which is Julius Malema. So as I come to the end of this video, I just want to say, people should not be excited. As Panyaza Sufi said, that we should not be excited whenever we see some people leaving other organizations and etc. So people should not think MK party cannot come down. MK Party is attached to Jacob Zuma. So in order to make sure that MK Party remains strong, they should not fight for leadership. But I'm not saying these leaders should not be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. But we have to get rid of this thing of focusing on leadership. Same applies to economic freedom fighters. As they are going to, like for an example, a conference right now, they need Julius Malema. They need Julius Malema. So if maybe you have an opinion to say, Mr. Malema, we want to replace you, then you have to get a blessing from the very same Julius Malema. So the main theme of this video is to show you that it doesn't mean MK Party cannot fall. And again, at the same time, it doesn't mean EFF is falling or EFF is dead, because we have two leaders who are popular, who have the same image, who have the same popularity, but with different characteristics.